Hello and welcome to another episode of the Profit Point Show. We're sorry for starting a little late behind the schedule. It was due to some hiccups that we were having. Now we want to delve into the first segment of the Profit Point Show, which is the business review segment. On the segment, we'll be discussing something very crucial as we're looking at intra-African trade policies. We want to look at how laws, agreement, and some conditions can affect or improve the trading unity among Africans. And we have a guest in the house who is joining us via Zoom from Ogbomoso, and he'll be talking about strengthening inter-African trade policy. Good morning, Mr. Eden Mudofia.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on the show.
All right, thank you for joining us in Ogun State, Abeokuta, the capital city. Now let's delve into what we have on ground. When we talk about trade policy, what are we talking about, and why must we go into African countries and look at how their laws and agreements will affect trade policies in those countries?
Trade policies are basically those laws or those rules that facilitate trade amongst ourselves. So in the African context, it means that these are the rules and the procedures that facilitate the exchange of goods and services amongst ourselves. So it's very important that we keep a keen attention to the type of policies that we enact in Africa, because it will determine the extent of our growth and development. Africa is way behind in terms of development, and then many of these issues we face are down to the kind of policies we enact, which is why it's a very important thing to discuss.
Okay, now let's talk about the laws now and those agreements that you must have seen or read about or experienced as someone who is into that field that is affecting trade all across the African globe, all across the African countries. What do you think is those barriers that we should take away when we talk about policies?
Thank you for that question. I believe one of the most significant barriers that we face in Africa is the lack of harmonization amongst ourselves. That is, we have disparaging custom procedures amongst several African countries, even in ECOWAS, that is in West Africa. So, I mean, this is a barrier that we need to remove. We need to have a standardized custom procedure for countries within the African continent, just like we have with flights and movements, where we don't have a harmonized system. So in trade, we need to enact policies that actually focus on harmonizing custom procedures so as to reduce the unnecessary bureaucracy that happens with clearing goods, and also to increase the volume of goods that we trade amongst ourselves as Africans.
Okay, now let's go to what you think the economic communities should do. We have a lot of economic communities, and these communities fast track how trades are being done across these countries. And when you're dealing across countries, you must obey some rules, obey some agreements, and obey some things that guides the product that you want to bring in or take out. So what particular role do you think economic communities should look into? Economic communities like ECOWAS and EAC and all that, do you think they have the power to tell traders or entrepreneurs who are trading outside the shores of their country what they should do? And if they should, what do you think they should tell traders to do when they are dealing with trading policies?
Regional economic communities like ECOWAS and SADC have a very important role to play, because they serve as the bridge between individual countries amongst ourselves as Africans. So we have, for example, the East African community in East Africa. They introduced a one-stop border system where every good coming in and outside the East African community has just one level to pass through in order to get cleared. So this means that it has been harmonized. That is, the trade procedures between East African countries like Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda has been harmonized. So it means that we have a reduced time in terms of clearing these goods. That is, the barrier of unnecessary bureaucracy has been removed. So I believe that individual economic communities like ECOWAS and EAC, as well as SADC, have a very vital role to play because they already have their framework, they already have their structure, which the African Continental Free Trade Agreement or area needs to actually fledge. So I believe that they have this role to play in terms of bringing together their resources, their frameworks, and collaborating with other regional economic community to make the AFCFTA functional and viable.
Okay. Now, another angle to all of these trade policies is the border management and how custom effectiveness affect how we grow our economy, looking at each of those countries, how you want to do trades with themselves. And when you're talking about all of these, some say that the border management caused a lot of problems, and these problems dovetail to countries that are trading with each other. So let's talk about border management. Do you think each African countries are doing enough that they need to do when it comes to policy, trade policies, and the way the economic advancement is being affected? What do you think they need to do? What if they are not doing the right thing? If they are doing the right thing,
African countries are not doing enough in terms of the border management.
Okay.
And like I highlighted earlier on, one of the major issues is a lack of harmonization, or rather put standardization. That is, even amongst West African nations, we do not have a standard custom procedure. So ideally, I believe that we should enact trade policies that standardize our custom procedures, especially as ECOWAS in West Africa that we find ourselves here. I believe that, for instance, if you have a good or a product that has been cleared in Ghana, as ECOWAS, you should be able to standardize the procedure so that when that same good is coming to Nigeria, then it does not have any custom issue because that's been cleared. And so that raises the issue of digitization. So in the 21st century, we should be able to digitize these custom procedures and facilitate standardization so that any goods who is coming from anywhere in West Africa can easily be passed or cleared across any border. This will reduce the bureaucracy that we often see when we're trying to clear our goods, and then also increase the volume of trade. Because to be fair, one of the reasons why we have low trade volumes is because of the difficulty that SMEs and private investors have with clearing their goods at various borders. So I believe that when we standardize, we can also digitize this procedure so that it facilitates the exchange of goods across member nations in Africa.
Does it happen like that when it comes to trading outside African region? Is it the same procedure? Do we have those bottlenecks experienced within the African countries being experienced when it comes to outside the African countries?
Yes. I believe that even away from individual regions, so across African nations, these bottlenecks still exist. Although in East Africa, I think they've made some progress in terms of reducing those bottlenecks. They have a one-stop system where you just need to go through one stage. You're not going through bureaucratic stages of clearing your goods. So that amongst East African countries like Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda, they've simplified this process so that it reduces the bottlenecks and then it facilitates trade between themselves and reduce the time taken to clear goods. I believe that in West Africa and other sub-regions, we can actually adopt this. And even on a larger scale, with the AFCFTA, the AFCFTA can adopt the East African blueprint and then facilitate trade amongst the 54 member nations in Africa. This will help Africa a lot and then improve trade and commerce across the continent.
Okay, another angle to this is strengthening inter-African trade policy is the issue of money, or the issue of currency within this trading countries. And they say when there's a financial model that cut across all the 54 countries within African continent, that there will be a lot of ease while doing this business. Do you see this as something that should be looked into?
Yes, I do believe that would really help. I believe that a unified means of trading will really help. But I also believe that there are some fundamental issues that need to be solved before we begin to think about all of these things. we need to standardize our custom procedures before we begin to think about harmonizing the means of exchange. Yes, so we need to standardize our platform, our procedures. We also need to digitize them. I mean, we're in the 21st century, and the world is moving, fast moving away from the traditional way of clearing goods and then all of these things. So we need to address fundamental issues because they are systemic. And without these fundamental solutions, other things are secondary. Other things like a unified currency is secondary at this stage in Africans' trade and commerce.
Since we are profiling solution on the program, can you tell us some of the basic challenges you think is not helping African countries when it comes to this trading of a thing? Well, other continents are seen to be doing well because there's ease in transportation, there's ease in some infrastructures, there are ease in what they do within themselves. So how do African countries look at infrastructure, transportation, and other fundamental things that you have mentioned earlier? How can they build on it and improve? And what should their governments start doing now?
It's very important that our infrastructure has to improve in Africa. I mean, taking Nigeria, for example, even within Nigeria, our roads are bad. Our roads are not in the best state. The railway system is appalling, basically. So majority of states do not even have, well-worked rail systems. So within Africa, within ECOWAS, for instance, we need to improve on our infrastructure. We need to invest aggressively into our infrastructure because our infrastructure would facilitate trade between member nations within Africa. So it's very important that we invest a lot. And because of this, it affects our trade, basically. Also, I believe insecurity is one of the issues we face with our trade in Africa. Insecurity also deters investors, foreign investors and even African investors, because it removes the predictability that comes with trade. Investors want a stable system that is predictable so that they can invest long term. Most of them want to invest long term. But when you have instability, political instability, instability with the public policies, and even infrastructure failure, then it brings the question of how confident are they in the system. So African governments need to establish that confidence, give the confidence to investors who will be investing and then trading so that they can as well contribute. So I believe that we need to invest aggressively into infrastructure. And as well, it is not enough to just talk about the policies and then what you need to do. Transparency is a problem. Implementation is a problem. So we need to create systems, structures that would facilitate transparency and, having them accountable for all of the things they're trying to do.
Do you think the laws of trading laws are effective when you compare one country to the other? Do you think they are flexible enough to accommodate each country that are trading with themselves? Do we need to look into the laws governing trading policies in each ECOWAS African countries?
For the best part of it, I would believe that for now, the laws are sufficient. The major issue we face is implementation. That's the major issue. So we have a problem of accountability in Africa. It's a general problem in Africa. I mean, recently, some weeks ago, we had a minister try to evade accountability from a journalist who was asking him questions regarding how much it costs to build a road, the unit cost of the road. I mean, so we know these things, we have the laws. Our constitution largely provides for some of these things, but we still have a problem of accountability. And many office holders try to evade accountability. So I believe that to actually help with our trade, we need to establish stronger institutions that can keep our officers, our office holders in check, so that we can facilitate transparency. I mean, it's not enough to enact laws. It's not enough to have procedures and all of these things. If you have the procedures and there's nobody to ensure that it is effected, there's no accountability, then everything becomes futile. So I very much believe that while we are trying to enact these policies and these laws, we also need to create stronger institutions to actually see that these laws and policies are actually done or effected.
The one area I want us to look into is the introduction of technology into how these laws or implementations are being done. For instance, if some goods are to pass through one border to another, and there are manual ways of checking those goods, it will take a longer time before you can deliver those goods to the doorstep of those your customers or those who want to buy or the market you're targeting. So how do we introduce technology into all these trade policies? Can technology help us in bridging the gap between those bottlenecks that you have identified?
Absolutely. Technology can absolutely help us to remove those bottlenecks. Yes. Technology, for instance, digital platforms, they make transactions easy, safer, and transparent. So, I mean, you do not have to carry cash everywhere you go. It's cashless. And then it makes transaction easy, straightforward, and transparent. So, I believe that we can enact policies to encourage digital commerce or e-commerce, as you'd like to put it. We can enact policies. For instance, the government can mandate the submission of digital documents for custom procedures. So instead of requesting for physical copies of some of these documents, the government needs to mandate business owners, exporters, importers to submit digital documents so that can actually encourage and then make us shift away from a traditional way of clearing goods to a digital way. And I mean, I cannot overemphasize the benefits that will bring to us. It will ease the trade between member nations, and it will also increase the volume. Because like I mentioned earlier, one of the reasons why many business owners do not find it easy to trade between various countries is because of the bottlenecks that often exist at borders. So if you introduce digital systems to the trading, it actually reduces the bottlenecks and as well increases volume and then encourages investors to trade between member nations.
Okay, let's talk about trade facilitations. Out of all the trade facilitations or incentives that we have, which do you think is a better use for SMEs, especially because SMEs are the bedrock of those economy that we want to drive? So how do they tap into those trade facilitations for their advantage?
I think SMEs can benefit from several trade facilitations. They can benefit from from credit facilities, because one of the major issues or major barriers that SMEs face in trade is finance. Without finance, you cannot do anything, and so many of them struggle with capital. So I believe that the government can subsidize the credit facilities, that is, subsidize the interest rates, and perhaps even give them incentives to actually carry out trade. They can also introduce tax breakers for them. So tax breakers basically just reduce the taxes they pay on certain goods or even remove them totally. So when this happens, it encourages SMEs to actually get involved in trade. So when you have this, it encourages them. And for instance as well, one of the issues we face is younger SMEs and as well as women who are involved in SMEs do not have access to some of these credit facilities. So I believe that access is one thing, as well as implementation. So if you reduce the bottlenecks, we actually remove the taxes or reduce it for them. That will help them facilitate trade amongst themselves in Africa.
Okay, for the purpose of education, now let's talk about how SMEs can benefit from these inter-African trades. What are the things they must put in place before they can start trading outside their country or outside the region that they reside? What are the things that they must have, the document, the equipment, and where they need to register the associations to join and the government policies to follow before they can take their goods or services outside their continent or outside the country they are operating from?
All right. Firstly, these SMEs need to be registered. So there are some SMEs who operate without being registered under the Corporate Affairs Commission, for example, in Nigeria. So these SMEs need to be registered and they need to be recognized by the country, the local economy, the country where they are residing. Because without that, the law does not recognize them as an entity. So that's very important. and they need to have these documents when they're trying to exchange goods and services with one another. And as well at borders, like I said, we still have bottlenecks, especially in West Africa. We still have bottlenecks with this trade relationship between individual countries. In East Africa, the East African community has standardized the trading between member nations. So between Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda, for instance, the process is not as difficult as it used to be before. So I believe that SMEs can benefit from this harmonization and this standardization because it would encourage them. And when you digitize these things, it reduces the traditional costs that will often be involved in registering your business and as well as clearing your goods at the borders.
Okay, and the last question for you now is the role of African Export and Import Bank. Do you think they have that strength to make finances so available for those who operate within their region, within the African region? Do they have that stamina to advise? Do they have that stamina? And what do you think traders or entrepreneurs should do looking into the policies of African Import and Export Bank?
I believe that the African Import and Export Bank have the capacity to actually assist SMEs. They do, but my major concern with this bank is implementation, transparency. Corruption is still a problem. So when you have the facilities to help, sometimes it doesn't get to the needed people. Sometimes you have various issues like corruption and nepotism, and then so the actual SMEs who need this assistance or who need these loans do not get them. So everything still boils down to implementation. We can talk about policies all day, we can talk about facilities all day, but when you have poor implementation, then it becomes a problem because we would not see the actual results. So everything we're talking about here in terms of trade, standardization, and digitization, we want to see the results in real life, not just on paper. So how do we see the results in real life? It means that we need to see to the implementation of these policies. We need to ensure that there's transparency. I mean, we need to have a situation whereby the African Import and Export Bank can publish data about their loans they give out to SMEs. We need to know, the people need to see that this money is going into somewhere, not just anybody. So there needs to be a system where we build institutions to hold them accountable and then to see that everything is going out fine and nobody's siphoning anything and nobody's stealing any money. So I believe that this will really help SMEs and facilitate trade amongst African nations.
Okay, do you see African nations or African countries moving from the consuming countries that we have been called to manufacturing countries? Is it possible? And how soon can that come?
I believe it's possible. Yeah, I believe it's possible because I'm very optimistic. I'm Pan-African. I believe that anything is possible. But with the current state of things in Africa, I believe it's a long shot from getting to where we want to be. So it's a long shot. It's a way off where we are currently, and so we need to put necessary steps in place before we can achieve that.
All right.
So at the moment, yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Edem Udofia, for coming on the program, The Profit Point Show, and talking about strengthening the intra-African trade policy. And your insight on that topic has been a good one for us. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Thanks for having me. My pleasure.
And now we want to go for a quick stop, and that stop will take us to the second segment of the Profit Point Show, which we call the sectorial segment. We'll see you after the break. This is the sectorial segment of the Profit Point Show, and now we want to talk about a particular skill, and that skill is going into how we are preparing our food, how creative we want to make our food look like. And we have a chef in the house who will tell us the creative ways in making our food, that are what we need to do when we want our food to catch the fancy of people or catch the eyes of those who want to eat it. So I have Nancy Nelson in the house. Nancy Nelson is a chef and someone who has been in the food industry for a long time. She'll be telling us how we can be creative with our cooking. You're welcome to the program, Nancy.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Are you shy? Because you have a lot of people to teach on the program, I inclusive.
I'm honored. I'm honored.
So our topic is looking at the business side of creative culinary. So when we talk about creativity when it comes to cooking, because we see everything, anything you put on the stove to cook is cooking for us. But for a chef like you, call it, give it different terms. So how creative can someone be when he wants to come, when you are cooking, or you want to impress someone with your cooking?
Okay, so firstly, cooking is an art. So we have to understand that it's not just for us to cook, or just for you to just put some seasoning and salt and rice on the fire. You know, there's an art and science behind it. The cooking method, you know, for jollof rice now, we have like 4 cooking methods for it to be called jollof rice, right? It has to go through the frying method, from the frying method to the boiling method, from the boiling to the steaming, before your jollof rice actually comes.
That's a lot.
So you have to just know that part. But I feel, to me personally, cooking is, apart from satisfying the hunger, right? It's a thought process to show love. It's one of the ways you can show love to your loved ones. So having that at the back of your mind alone can make that meal special. Not you just saying, let me just do everything.
I just want to eat something.
Let me just, no. Even the plates that you use in serving that particular food, maybe for instance your swallow, right, goes a long way. People actually see. They eat the food by seeing. They eat the food by seeing first before they actually eat. So the plate itself goes a long way. So yeah, you have to first see it as an art, then see it as something you want to just do to satisfy maybe your spouse, your children. It can just be something that you don't want to give them the regular that day. Maybe pancake, they don't eat pancake on a regular. You just say, okay, I want to go out of my way to make a pancake for my. You are showing love already. It's an act of service. Cooking is an act of service.
So how does this creativity, how does it come? Do you have a manual for it? Do you have how people must do? Is there a standard procedure like chef must follow before you can make something creative? We see chef nowadays rolling eba, and molding into some shapes, and we see some pancakes being designed to look like some animals, and you want to you just want to know why you are going through that stress. Do you have a particular model you follow when you want to create these things?
Okay, so like what I tell my students, because I run a culinary school, so what I tell them most times is that when you are plating, think about...
Okay, the term is called plating.
Plating, okay. Yeah. So when you are plating, less is more.
Okay.
So you have to think about the unconventional way you can present that particular meal that will look attractive to the other person. Like you said, there's a term for it. Apart from plating, if you want to do some, the outside world, like the expatriates, right? They are the one that brought about these old portionings and all of those things. So we have an Afrofusion, we call it Afrofusion, where we can have a Nigerian cuisine you know, intertwined with a Chinese cuisine. A Chinese cuisine majorly may not have anything to do with atarodo, but if I want to do my Chinese rice, I will say that no, I want to put atarodo.
You must feel it.
Yes, I want to feel the heat. That's an Afrofusion.
Okay.
You've infused, you know, a Nigerian ingredient with an Asian ingredient, and it has collaborated together like this now. So you can use anything around you, your surrounding to make a food look palatable. But the most important thing here is that you have to understand that less is more when you are plating. So yes, the term is plating.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so what is the importance of these designs to food? Because a lot of people do not see the need for Shell to design these things and be too creative about it. They are particular about being hungry and I want to eat. Why do you think this creativity is needed when it comes to food?
Well, I don't really think people are not interested in plating, because if not, the food industry wouldn't be, you know, a $1 trillion industry, because people are more specific about what they eat, and people eat their food with their eyes first. If a food is sweet and is not being plated in a very attractive way, even if you are hungry, right, you will lose your appetite immediately.
Okay.
Right? you will lose your appetite immediately, because in the true sense of it, right, when you are cooking, like the person that you want to serve is hungry. Now you now present the food in a way that it does not even look good.
Like the one we are seeing now.
Like it does not look good, right? You know, the food might be sweet, but the way you presented this has already turned me, for one, has turned me off already, right?
So creativity is more about presentation.
Presentation is very, very important. You have to think about it, that how, after I finish cooking this food, how do I want this food to look like to this person, right? And again, it does not have to be expensive. Many times, many people feel presentation or plating of food have to be expensive. You can use a mold, maybe a cup in your house that is just surrounding, and say that that's how you want to scoop your rice going forward, and have a particular plate, a sauce plate where you can put your stew. So, you know, that's just it. It's not, you don't have to.
It's not something too serious.
Yeah, it's not something too serious. Well, we want to now start talking about it being too serious, that we're entering into fine dining. There are different stages or different restaurants or food business level, right? So as a private chef, my clients are hiring me just not for the food to be sweet, or they know that the food is sweet, but they want to have that feel of royalty. You get?
Yeah, I do.
That's different between a fast food restaurant, maybe like somewhere like Mama Put and Royal Mandarin. You can't expect the same service. So, because when you go to Royal Mandarin, you are treated like a king or a queen. They'll give you a hot towel to, you know, wipe your hand. But if you go to the Mama Put, nobody really. So that's actually.
You need to go and wash your hands by yourself.
Nobody really, you know, sends you and all.
Okay, let's move to the business angle of it, because you can't be this creative and not make money out of it. So when you're making money, what are the things you must put in place for you to make that money that you are looking into? The equipment to start with, if you're starting the business of creating food business.
Yeah.
So let's go into that. What are the equipment, what are the things that you need, and how can you make money from all of this?
Okay, so the first thing first, you have to acquire the knowledge of preparing of food, creating of recipes. You have to, if you want to be a chef. Now, there's a chef, there are chefs, there are caterers, there are food owners, there are just different segments. You have to know where your strength lies. If you love the kitchen, if you love to be around the fire, then, you know, you love to try new things. Okay, what today? What if I try bush mango, and with another thing, what will it give me, right? You have to first, there are techniques behind this. That's why we have culinary schools all around us. So you have to first acquire that skill first, the skill of cooking. You have to acquire it.
How long does it take to acquire? Because we all, as a female, we are expected to know how to cook.
Yes.
So others.
Now, cooking now, the food that you know how to cook in your house is quite different from what you're going to be serving your customers or your clients, right? So we have different programs for this. There are some culinary schools that takes you 2 years, professional diploma courses that take you 2 years, where you would learn about pastry, African cuisine, international cuisines, and all of those things. And we have short courses where we also do like a 1 month and 2 months, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months courses, you know, where you also have all of this. You have a bit of everything infused. Pastry.
So in all of these teachings, you teach them the business angle of it too,
yes,
and management.
Yeah.
What do they manage?
That is the most important part, or I feel that that's where I stand out in my culinary school, because I'm not just a chef, I own a restaurant also. And I've been in the business now for 7 years, and I know what it means to manage a food business. It's profitable, but it's one of the business that can shut you down in minutes if you are not knowledgeable about inventory, you are not knowledgeable about food costing, you don't know how to price, you don't know how to forecast. You don't know how to forecast, you don't know how to batch. These are the things as a core restaurateur or a food business owner that you should know. So I take my time to explain every of these things to my students. Standard operating procedures is no joke. If you want to build a sustainable business. So these are the things, and it's a full course. In fact, the certification is food entrepreneurship certificate.
Okay.
Because like you said, everybody knows how to cook. Someone to say, well, I can cook jollof rice now. I can go, fine, good.
But we are always looking out for the party jollof rice.
Yes, but you know, okay, come in and do it. You know, the technique is missing, and that's where acquiring the skills comes in. And beyond that, how to turn that skill into a monetizable venture for you, a platform for you, because at the end of the day you need to make money, right? So but if you don't know the static, you don't know your cost price, you don't know your selling price, you don't know your other costs, you don't know what it even make for you to sell that plate. Some people go ahead to compare, they go as far as comparing their prices with other food vendor, but no, that's the confidence of you being
you must be unique.
You must be unique in that part. If you know that part, there is nothing stopping you from not being successful.
Okay, let's talk about operational challenges, because the way you said if you are not knowledgeable enough, it can bring it, the business can bring it in seconds. What are the challenges that you think are in there for creatives in the culinary industry that they should know and tackle when it comes? How do they tackle them?
Okay, one of the challenges that most food vendors or most food business owners that I've come across, they talk about, private chefs talk about, is how they manage staff. It's usually a thing where they talk about, but you cannot manage staff if you don't have a structure. Your business must have a structure. So now the model of your business is what your restaurant consultant or your business consultant should model into a structure for you. Even the Bible says, my people perish because they lack knowledge. Your staff, if they see that you as the boss, if you don't even know how things are being done, you don't just do your things anyhow.
They cut corners.
They will cut corners from you. Your recipes, the food that you sell, you don't even know how many yield comes out from a bag of rice or a Congo of rice. How do you think your staff will take you serious? So that is one aspect that you know they complain about, and we have to go back to the drawing board of building a standard operating procedure for that aspect. Now another part is selling. When you say, oh, I don't know where my money went to. I sold, I did not see my money. This was a huge challenge for me as a food business owner when I just started. And I found out that the money did not go anywhere. The money is right where you kept it, because, for instance, if you don't price accordingly, right, there are two factors to where your money has gone to. If you price correctly, you are to see profits. If you don't price accordingly, you might not see profits. And if you don't market accordingly, right, your profit is tied in your kitchen. So that means you have stocks that are in your kitchen that are tying down your profits. Because if you don't market, how would you sell? So many a times, many business owners lack that aspect of marketing. So marketing is the soul of every business. And I used to tell my students that you must know how to sell. Selling is a core for you. You must not, I'm shy. No, you must know how to sell.
You're shy and you're doing a business.
You must know how to sell, because that's the soul of that business, selling. So even if after you put, I have used my business as a lab rat, even after no staff, theft, structure, everything is good, my batching, everything is perfect, but the money was still not coming in. Why? Because I was not marketing enough. Okay, or rather, not that I wasn't marketing, I went on maternity leave, and after the maternity leave, business was not used. I didn't have the energy to like pump back again. It went back because your customers will not wait for you. They want you to keep being on their face.
And they want to try new things.
Yes. So you need to constantly sing the song that your customer likes to hear.
Okay, let's talk about scaling now.
Yeah.
Some medium shelf now, they might want to scale to being a commercial shelf and start selling in a large scale.
Yeah.
So how do they move from being small to big?
Yeah, so one of the things they have to do first is, apart from, getting the necessary skills, getting the necessary certifications, like, a culinary school certification, a food safety certification, a professional certification like maybe NAPTEP, joint association like Culinary Arts Practitioners of Nigeria. Now, these are the things that singles you out from the others, right? Because a person that just have a culinary school certificate, and you that have a culinary school, you have a food safety certificate, internationally recognized, you're in an association that is internationally recognized, you are no longer operating on a lower level, because you are now under bodies that warrant you to think global.
And network.
And and you have to network. You're no longer, even if you are in Obantoko, you can no longer operate in the level of Obantoko. You have to speak the language that will connect both your people, your customers in Obantoko with the global world. So these are the things you have to do. And another thing there is you also have to structure down your business. Structure is very, very important in commercializing. If you cannot structure, then that means you want to play small. So structure majorly is the big name for commercializing. Yeah.
So before you go, you must have seen some mistakes that that some just starting the business of creativity in the culinary business are making. What are those mistakes, and how do you think they can correct them if they want to move from being small, as you've said, to being the big one in the society?
Well, one of the big mistakes I see many young entrepreneurs, or food business entrepreneurs, or creative chefs and all do, is their inability to ask for help. Many a times, because there's this stigma of perfection that is attached to being a chef or a cook. Everybody assumes that you should know it, but you can't know it all. And again, the world is evolving, right? There should be a level of where you just, that this person has a level of knowledge in this particular thing, and you just ask for help.
Relearn.
Just learn. Relearn, unlearn, and learn more. Right? There's one thing I usually would do to myself. I will pay anything for knowledge, because I know that it will do me a huge favor. Another thing I feel most food creative does to themselves is they don't cost appropriately. They run away from mathematics. And you cannot say you love money and you don't know simple maths. In calculation, right? You have to know that part. You have to open your head to know that part. You have to know the yields. You have to know your portions. You have to know your CP. You have to know your SP. You have to know your FC. You have to know, there's so many things you have to know. And you have to bring yourself to that learning.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hope our viewers have been able to get 1 or 2 lessons, because you are really teaching us the CPs, the SPs, and all that. And plating.
Yes,
I got that.
Yes, plating.
Plating, actually decoration of your food.
Yes.
So I want to thank you so much, Nancy,
Thank you so much
for coming on the program and
Thank
talking
you.
about how we can make our food creative and also making money out of it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Zanana.
And we want to thank our viewers too, who stood by us all through the program. And now, this is the time to wind down on the program. But before we go, don't forget that OGTV is here, and you are free to come and place your advert or sponsor any of our programs. If you want to do that, please call this number 0803 396 0423. That is the number to call, 0803 396 0423. The number to call if you want to place an advert or sponsor any of our programs on OGTV. Until next Thursday, God willing, when I come your way again with a full stretch of the Profit Point Show, we'll see you again, God willing, next week. Have a good day ahead of you. Bye-bye.